Welcome to Comarc. Thank you for joining us for our September-October issue's cover story. To refresh a 1960s-era building serving as Fairleigh Dickinson University's animation lab, campus leaders and collaborators NK Architects reach out to Technical Glass Products, who worked to develop a bespoke glass solution to the highly specific needs of the animation lab. We spoke with James Wharton of TGP to discuss the project. James Wharton represents Technical Glass Products, or TGP, in New York, New Jersey, and all of New England. James has been with TGP for 15 years and has successfully worked with numerous architects, building owners, and subcontractors from development of schematic design through installation. Thank you for joining us. Let's head into the conversation.
So what we're looking to do with this issue is on the cover, show the concept, and then inside have a dialogue with the owner and architect about concept all the way through, and then end it with the building product manufacturer, because at least everyone should know, unless you have a good relationship with that company in the pre-design phase, you'll never truly know what you could achieve.
Sure.
So this dialogue is really just about, like, when did you come into it? We could talk about some of the obstacles that they had.
Yeah.
And how you became a solution, with the end result hopefully being that the community that we serve starts seeing we want to engage earlier.
Yeah.
And later, and instead of just a bidding process.
Yeah. And I think with what we do, that's super important as well, just based on cost involved with the fire rated solutions, the higher end fire rated solutions as they are today. If people don't get out in front of it, they often find themselves in a situation where they want to use the product, but they haven't budgeted for it, or an owner is so surprised by what it costs them that it's just not an option anymore. So there's a lot of desire in architects that I work with to utilize our products, but if they come into the game too late, it just doesn't become an option anymore. People are set on what they want to spend. They see a pretty big price tag on this stuff and they just say no. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times that can really undermine the visual intent that an architect has. So I always urge, I give continuing education presentations all the time. And the thing I always say to these guys is, if you think you want to use it, get out ahead of it. Give us a call somebody, talk to them about it, understand not just what you can do, but I hate to say it, what it's going to cost you to do it, because it's not cheap. And I think we pride ourselves in being really candid about that. I'm not trying to hide from it. I think people need to be aware so that they can be prepared for what it's going to take to do it.
Well, you see that in studies, especially, that an architect working on a project, the first one of contact they usually want is just to go to your website, see all that material, get a handle. Don't call me.
Yeah.
And then other surveys, you'll hear, oh no, I want an existing relationship, so I know I could call somebody up and see if it's feasible and what it's all going to look like as early as possible.
Yeah, I think that's how most of my good relationships have started. I mean, we have a lot of ways for people to access material from us, whether it's requesting BIM models or CAD files. And a lot of that initially for me is, you request it online, I send you the file back. Hey, keep us in mind if you need anything. And ultimately somebody, if it works out, is going to call, they're going to email if they have a question. And then you create that rapport, that level of trust, and hopefully they call back. I think the thing that's funny in our industry, specifically the fire rated side of things, it's not on every job. You know what I mean? I'm not the guy selling demountable partitions. I'm not the guy selling windows, where every job an architect does requires some level of that product, so that they call you every month, every few months. I mean, I have people who have to remind me, hey, we spoke 4 years ago about this project. Well, I ran into a fire rating again. My hope is that our product is good enough and that we did a good enough job supporting them that they remember. A lot of it's passing along. You work well with somebody and then it's, hey, my colleague said you were really helpful with this. You know what I mean? So I agree with that. I think it's harder in what we do just because of how infrequent the need for our material really can be. It's getting bigger, but for a long time, unless it was a huge firm like Gensler or someone like that, you really didn't talk to somebody for a couple of years at a time because jobs just didn't need what we had or couldn't afford what we had.
Which makes sense on the marketing effort that your organization has.
Absolutely. And I listen, I think I'm pretty good at what I do once they reach out to us, but we do an amazing job, Brandner and TGP together, of just making us a household name. People think fire rated is almost like Kleenex or Xerox. It's TGP, and I had nothing to do with that. I just reaped the benefits of it. But it is pretty nice. I mean, people associate that, and then they reach out, and then hopefully we back it up with the knowledge and the support that they need.
Getting involved in this project, because it was education and demands on those types of environments, I'm thinking they would naturally reach out to your company or a company like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big market for us, the education market. For exactly the reasons that you see there. They're trying to make these spaces more attractive, more inviting, and they run into a lot of these issues, a lot of these restrictions by code that sort of handcuff what they're able to do. And hopefully they dig enough and desire enough to not use what's typically available to them, to start to look for someone like us, and then they find us on the web and reach out, and then we go from there.
Well, how did this process go? Did you have a relationship with?
I've worked with NK in the past on different projects from time to time. Again, it's sporadic. It's not always the same team. From what I remember, it was more of a, hey, I was on your website. I have this issue. I'm looking for a solution to it. I think you guys might have something, but I need to understand a little bit more about what the capability is. This one's pretty unique. It's more what we run into, but it's unique for an architect who hasn't done it before, in that code sort of makes you think that the requirements at a location like this limit you to a solid, non-transparent wall. And I think they're somewhat aware that things may exist, but really figuring out which products can do it is what's tough for them. So they'll often call and say, hey, from what code says, this is the only thing I can do. And I'm able to say to them, hey, we've tested products that look like storefronts and entrances, but they're tested to the same standards as a solid rated wall construction. And that's usually when I get oh, that's amazing. I didn't realize that. I understand now. Can you back that up? And of course, all of our collateral has documentation of all of our listings. So we set them at ease pretty quickly. I still have some skeptics saying like, well, do I have to get approval to do this? And, based on most of what we've done, no, you don't. These products are tested equal to what was traditionally available to you. They just look like what you want them to look like, which I think is where people get excited typically.
Right. And the problem, the issue, actually it's not any of those. It's really the opportunity they had is we're doing cool stuff within this area. Let's not hide it. And
yeah,
by not hiding it, people will be introduced and desire to join this type of program, right? And then you gave them that open environment they wouldn't normally have.
Right. And I think the key for us is just, I joke a lot, but our products are mostly used, and really we produce and design them so that people don't notice that they're anything different. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on something to make it look exactly like everything else. We don't want people to know, hey, what's that? Is that something else? And that's kind of funny to think about. But that's the idea. How do we make the transition between rated and non-rated not nearly as apparent as it was for years? A cinder block wall and a butt glazed storefront system, they look pretty different from one another. And it can make for some pretty uninviting spaces, or some pretty interrupted spaces. Hey, we have something beautiful here and something, pretty institutional and unattractive here. And if we can make it so the two look the same, I think that's really what we're striving for ultimately with everything that we do.
Oh, interesting. But okay, how did they lay out to you what they were dealing with and what their need was? Did they literally say, okay, we would love to have glass, and we see that you're the only type of solution? What was the impetus to get them going?
Yeah, I mean, really the impetus, typically they'll call and they'll say, hey, I have an application, in this case, a 60-minute fire rating, based on where it is, based on what the application, what the occupation of the building is. We require this level of rating. And in this case, it's the highest level given, which is ASTM E119, which basically says that the product has to act as a wall. And they're going, hey, we're just trying to do anything here. And what I'll usually do is we have an array of products that sort of are designed to meet different aesthetics, whether it's a storefront, whether it's a curtain wall, just a door and a side light, or in this case, something butt glazed. I would have them typically show me an elevation. I usually say, hey, what do you want this to look like? Show me what you want it to look like. We may not be able to do it exactly that way, but I need an understanding of what your vision is. In this case, it was pretty straightforward, single span interior, as uncaptured as possible storefront system. And so that led me sort of immediately to the system that I offered to them. I then will typically run through kind of the limitations of our system. Because they are classified as walls, they're unlimited in how large an elevation can be, but we do have maximum tested individual light sizes. So really it's just me saying to them, okay, here are the parameters, here are the limitations. I guess that's not the right word, but here, let's call it that. Here are the limitations of the system. This is the biggest piece of glass you can have. I don't care how you do it, just make sure that no single light within this elevation exceeds this. Here are our doors. They're narrow style, large lighted glass. However, here's the max width, here's the max height. And I try and empower them to then take that information and design whatever it is they want that's as close to what they're doing elsewhere within our parameters. And that's really usually the progress. I mean, this one wasn't all that different from a lot of conversations I have. Hey, what can I do? Can I do anything at all? Yeah, you know what? You can. Here's what you're trying to do. Here's what I can offer you that's close to it. Here are the sort of the boundaries you have to play within, and then I let them run with it. Usually what I'll say is, why don't you then draw it up, send it back to me. We'll make sure that you didn't design anything that we can't do, make any tweaks to it that's necessary, and then provide them the rest of the support they need, whether that's CAD, specs, whatever it is, to try and see it through to bid.
And one of the things that keeps coming up is no change in color with that glass.
Yeah.
So
fire rated glass in general has kind of made a progression. Initially, it was wired glass, which obviously has its own aesthetic downsides, and that really doesn't look like anything we're using in the rest of a building. A lot of the solutions following that were ceramic-based products, which, listen, we still sell. They're great, but they do have a slight tint to them. We partner with Pilkington for the products we provided for this project, utilizing their OptiWhite, which is a low iron float glass. And we introduced specialty interlayers in between the lights of glass and ultimately come out with the clearest solution for a fire rated glass. And the great thing is it's also our highest performer in that it can meet that transparent wall assembly that I discussed before. So it's going to allow us the largest sizes, the clearest overall color, and just visibility through glass. So it's just a really, really high-end product that solves a lot of problems.
Who was driving that need? Was it the architect saying, okay, this is what we need to achieve? Or was it you saying, here's a heads up, if we don't do these types of things, you are going to see these things?
Yeah, in this case, based on the requirement they had, this was the only product that worked for them. So a lot of the glass products that are available sort of as more of a commodity in the fire rated world are these ceramics, which are alternatives to wired glass. When you get into these transparent wall applications where we're really providing something that is tested and considered to be solid wall construction, just allowing for visibility, you're typically going to be led to a specific line of products, which are thicker than traditional glass. So in this case, when she told me what the application required, it wasn't well, you can have this or you can have that. It was simply, if you need to meet this standard, here's the product. We only offer it low iron. We want to make it look as good as possible, especially since it is multiple lights of glass. It can get thicker. We want to keep it as clear. So really in this case, it was what it was. What they got to choose was, how do you use it? So in these systems, the glass is the constant. The rating will dictate the thickness of the glass for the application, and there will be a size limitation per piece. What they get to choose, and this is where sort of the fun for me comes into play, is based on what they want it to look like, I have an array of framing options or installation options that they can use. So this could have been a captured storefront system with aluminum mullions, or in this case, because of what they were looking for, it ended up with that clear silicone joint. So coupling that low iron glass with a mullionless clear silicone 5mm gap between that stuff basically makes for a continuously clear wall for them to really open up and obviously get that super cool, unique red look would display all the interesting things that are inside that lab itself. So
that's where the collaboration happens then.
Yeah.
So, okay, we know this is the right product, but how do we use it in this area to really achieve the goals?
Yep, exactly. And I think based on what they were describing, what they wanted it to look like, it was pretty simple to say, okay, well, here's the system that's going to give you the most glass, the least metal. And, I don't always get into what's going on around this, but in this case, I think it was pretty simple. And you can see it in a lot of those photos. One side of this space is going to be non-rated. In a lot of cases, the other side isn't. And so the idea is, how do we best match what's on the other side of this thing? Again, going back to that, we want what we're providing to look exactly like what's being provided everywhere else, to make this whole thing have that continuity, that seamless transition. So I think this one, from that end, once they told me what they needed, it was a pretty simple direction to head to give them the product that would best do it.
Yeah. I think throw out, we're talking about earlier, is, since your organization is a marketing machine, as an architect, and I complete this type of high profile project, I want that out. Is that another advantage that your company offers, or it's just?
Explain that, ask me that one again. I'm not sure I get it.
So because your organization markets so well and wants to be front of mind at all times. Me as an architect, I'm doing a high profile project. If I know I'm working with you, and as a result, you're going to take this case study out, you're going to use it in visible ways, it's going to be really good for my architectural firm.
Yeah.
That's a consideration that hits.
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't say as often as I'd like. I'm really proud of what we do. A lot of our stuff it's a pretty small piece of the overall job. So you got to find something like this where it's really the showpiece. And I think this one, and not that there aren't others like it, but this one was unique in how visually stimulating it was, how important it was. A lot of what we do, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's doors into stairwells. It's allowing for visibility, light transfer, things like that, but it's not the focal point always. And in this case, it was. I've obviously had a lot of projects like that. Manhattan, Northern Jersey, that sort of metro market definitely uses this stuff differently than the rest of my territory or even the country does, because the projects exist, the budgets exist to do it. But yeah, I think that for a lot of people, that is a big thing. I'm doing a brewery up here in Massachusetts where the architect was really excited, and he had seen some other stuff that we had done. We did a distillery for Angel's Envy, and he had seen that, and he was like, hey, maybe we could photograph this when we're done too. So I do see it. I'd like to see it more because I get excited about it, that's for sure. But yeah, I think from time to time, that's the case. But I do think that our marketing, the projects that we have done, the things we show, give these people confidence, hopefully, to say, all right, I can turn to these guys and they're not going to lead me astray, and they're ultimately going to make it look pretty good too.
Thanks for doing this.
Was that helpful? Is that what we were looking for?
That was awesome.
Okay.
And I think you go through what all of us go through in our job. We've been doing it for a period of time, and we just don't think it's that spectacular.
I mean, here's the thing. This one was funny to me too. Like, I remembered working on this. I enjoyed helping out, but I don't know. I have no, I see floor plans. I see elevations on a sheet of paper. And then I remember when the guys at Brandner sent it over me, I was like, whoa, like I had no idea that was going to look so cool. So it's a thrill for me to get to see it. I joke usually, and luckily this doesn't happen too often, but the only time I get to go see things is if there's some sort of problem, you know what I mean? So it's nice to get to talk about and see the ones that go well, and where you really help somebody do what they wanted to do. So yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I'm a little jaded after all this time. But
I don't know if it's jaded. It's just we don't appreciate what we
know. Yeah.
But all right. Well, again, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great job. That's why you host all those webinars.
I guess so. They keep asking me, so I must be doing something right.
I hope to meet you in person.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
We're in Jersey City now, so if you're ever here too, and once architects want me to come to their office, believe me, I'll be hopping on the train or in my car immediately. That was
I think that's been the hardest thing work-wise is that's my passion. You know, I sell to the subcontractors. My passion is what we talked about today. I mean, I downplay it a bit, but there's nothing better than having someone call thinking they can't do something and then being able to really quickly not only tell them they can, but show them that they can make it look pretty good. And I miss that, frankly. I miss sitting down in a meeting and helping somebody do something they didn't know they could do. So, I mean, I still do it virtually, but it doesn't have the same feel, I won't say.
Yeah, it doesn't have that long-lasting relationship feel.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So fingers crossed, we'll get back there soon. But yeah, absolutely. I'd like to meet in person, and if you need anything else, just let me know. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks. And vice versa. Anything we can
do. All right. Thanks so much. See ya.
Enjoy your kindergartner. See ya.
Will do. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode covering the Fairleigh Dickinson University Animation Lab project. Please visit our website at www.comarch.com for full digital issues of the Comarch magazine, including the FDU cover story in our September-October issue, as well as full transcripts of these conversations and much more. To stay up to date with Comarch content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks for watching.